Hi, welcome or welcome back if you're new here. This is the second build in my Werewolf Summer / Moonwood Mill little series that I'm doing of Sims 4 builds. If you've missed the first two videos in this series, I will link them down below so you can get with the program. But this is a little community garden of sorts, and I'm not even gonna lie, I am obsessed with how it came out. I like it a lot. A few reminders or disclaimers if you're new here. One, I don't use mods or custom content. Not that I don't think there are a lot of great ones out there that I would love to use, but I am using a MacBook Pro with very limited storage, so it's just not ideal for me to do. I do, however, use cheats, and I very frequently use debug items in all of my builds. And thirdly, I don't play The Sims, I just build. I hardly ever play, but I do build a lot, so there's no guarantee that my builds are 100% functional if you want to use them for actual gameplay. I'm so sorry. I try my best to make them functional, but there's just no guarantee, and I don't play test them, so I don't know. That being said, this build will be in the gallery, actually 2 versions of it. You'll see why in a little bit. But yeah, all of my builds will be in the gallery, so feel free to use them if you'd like to. Just make whatever adjustments you need to make them playable if there's like an item or something that doesn't function properly. I'm building for vibes and aesthetics, not functionality or playability, because I don't play. But yeah, let's get into it. Also, I'm sorry in advance if there's any like background noise or anything happening. There's some construction or yard work or something that has been happening outside quite literally all day, and if I don't film this right now, I will not be getting a video up this week, and I'm trying to be consistent, so please just ignore it. All right, so this here is the community garden. And as you can see over here, this is the first lot that I did for the series with the 3 houses on it. So I just jumped right over to the lot across from it, keep things easy. But this is the little community garden. So here's the thing. This was not the build I was originally planning to do next in this series. I did have a community garden on my list of ideas, but it was not the one I was going to do next. I was actually going to do something different for this one. However, The Sims released glass walls, and I was like, oh, perfect. I can build some sort of greenhouse with those. That's going to be so sick. So I opened up the lot and I started trying to build like one of these types of greenhouses, and I got pretty close to it, but no matter what I did, it just looked too modern and too crisp and clean for the environment and the general vibe that I'm going for with these Werewolf Summer builds. And it was very clearly glass when I was trying to go for a more plastic look. So it just didn't pan out the way that I wanted it to. It was too clean. It was too nice. So I ended up scratching that all together. But while I was looking at inspiration photos for greenhouses to try to get that vibe, I saw this photo and it changed everything. And I decided to try that. And then here we are. So I'm really glad that I pivoted from the original idea because I love how this turned out, and I think I like this more than what my original concept was. But yeah, so this became the priority because of glass walls. There are no glass walls in this build, so so I guess we'll just start at the entrance and work our way around. But at the front, we have a little community bulletin board, obviously, because that's necessary. And I think this is from like the Werewolves pack. So that is like an actual Moonwood Mill community board. And then this is a little mini library that I actually made. I don't know if these are everywhere. I have to assume that they're everywhere because we have so many here where I live. They're in public parks. They are in people's front yards. They are in front of businesses. We have so many of these, and I love them. I think they're great. I think they're a great way to get people into reading and a great way to repurpose used books that might just get thrown away or resold when you can give them to other people in the community who might want to read them. I think they're great. I love them. I try to stop at them when I see one or when I can, but I threw this little guy together. It was a little tricky, I'm not gonna lie, but I really wanted it, one, just to fill this spot, and I thought it would be a good little addition, and 2, it actually matches this greenhouse back here that we will look at in a minute. It has all of the same elements, so the same like wallpaper. This is clearly on here more than once, actually. I think it's on the other side. But I wanted it to be like a miniature version of this, that whoever built this also made this. But I actually, because this was a little complicated to make, but I thought it was really cute how it turned out, I did record a little tutorial that will be on my YouTube shorts and on my TikTok if you want to see it there to see how to do it yourself. You can use the tutorial and then use whatever actual elements you want. You don't have to use this exact shutter or like wallpaper or anything, but if you just want to know how to make a little mini library, I did film the process of that. So I wanted to keep this space pretty open right inside the entrance, so I didn't want to build any additional structures, and I just threw down some picnic tables and a lantern on each one, and then also there's a few different trash areas around the lot since it's a pretty big lot, so each area has its own regular trash can and recycling trash can, because out here there is a regular trash bin and a recycling bin because they're responsible. And as you can see, there's another set there. There's nothing super fancy happening right here. I don't know if we should go left or right. We're gonna go right. So to the right, there is a little coffee stand. This is a little walk-up coffee stand situation. And the idea behind this is that everything here was built by the community, that everybody like volunteered and assembled all of the structures. People volunteer in the actual garden. Obviously, like the coffee shop has paid employees. The food trucks are locally owned. But in terms of like assembling this property, it was all built from the ground up by locals. So for the front of the coffee shop, I just put two little pallets here. I think these pallets are from the high school years pack. There is a pallet, I believe, in either the Eco Lifestyle or the Werewolves pack. It is a debug item in either pack, but the color is different between whichever other pack it is. So this one I think is from high school years. And then I put just a little stone or like gravel floor pattern underneath it to add a little bit of texture. And then this wall paneling is on all three of these structures that you'll see here. I added this little werewolf pack old factory shutter because I liked that it looked like one of those like rolling windows that they could close for security purposes at night and then reopen, so it's just kind of half open because that's the way that it comes. I do think this looks like a face if you look at it straight on. Does anybody else see that? And then at the back of the coffee shop, there is the little door for the employee to get in and out, a sink because I could not fit it inside the coffee shop, a little light here. This is the trash area for obviously the employee and anybody like making their drinks over here. And then in the back here, we have, I guess, like a walk-in fridge. I didn't do much inside the walk-in like fridge freezer situation. It's just 4 of the exact same shelf. I just rotated them, one on each side, the opposite way, so that it added a little bit of variety to what was showing on the front of the shelves. And then inside the coffee stand, it's obviously very, very small. So there is a fridge, a coffee maker, and then on this side here, a bunch of mugs, some to-go cups, a bunch of like seasonings, coffee grounds, whatever, syrups and things like that, and then some extra bottles of maybe some other beverages that they might sell, and then their little cash register there. And then over here on this side, there is a self-service bar that just has a bunch of different tea bags, every type of creamer, milk, whatnot, some honey, probably a syrup, and then like cinnamon and sugar or something, and then some like leftover spoons. And then over on this side, we have the little seating area, which looks so cute at night, mind you. But there's a bunch of bar seating, a few bistro tables, and then here in the back, if you can see, I just hung some dried flowers and put a mirror here just for the aesthetic of it. So these are all the same light bulb. I just scaled about half of them down one, and I just alternated how they were placed so it looked like they were just kind of randomly thrown up there, but it does have a little bit of a pattern to it if you look from certain angles. And then over here we have the elevated porta potties, if you will. They are like, again, like everything else on this lot, they constructed them, so they are kind of rigged together with just some steel panels and some doors. But I threw these together. I wish the game had functional porta potties. I think there is a debug item in the werewolf pack, and it's 3 porta potties kind of like chained together, but they're not functional either way, but they wouldn't be functional in real life. Like, they are very clearly out of order and like falling apart. I wish we had like good functional porta potties to throw up in a corner on a lot like this, but I did put these together. So the roof on each one covers 2 of them, just because I liked the way that it looked better that way. The rounded roof looks kind of weird when it's like a 1x1, so it is a 1x2 grid for those, and it straight up just has a toilet in each one and a light. This is, I think, a werewolf toilet off the grid. What pack are you from? That is a debug toilet. And then I just put this door on each one. So they're literally, it's the exact same thing across the way. And then since these were kind of like DIY and they weren't like professionally constructed and they wouldn't probably have proper ventilation, I used a half wall on the front here. I think it's like the second tallest, maybe third tallest half wall here, to provide a little bit of like ventilation and fresh air through here, and also some additional lighting. And then obviously they have that like little light in it. There's again another trash can and recycling bin, and then over here are 2 sinks, because obviously you need to wash your hands after you use the restroom. But I did go ahead and put 2 little mirrors here. Since these aren't like traditional indoor bathrooms, I still wanted it to have kind of like an intentional feel behind it. So instead of just like throwing 2 sinks here, I did put 2 random mirrors that they probably like thrifted or were like donated by locals onto this trellis wall, which these are just an individual like decor item that I placed a bunch of times along here and on the other side of the bathroom here. So that's the coffee shop and the bathroom area. And then over on this corner, we have the food truck kind of yard area. So I figured they probably have like a rotating schedule of what food trucks come in each week or month or whatever. So I put one here. I did build this little Airstream on this debug trailer here. I feel like the Airstream came out okay. I feel like it does its job. I like this feature of it. This was kind of a pain in the butt, and I don't think the payoff was incredible. I wish we had more true flat silver siding. This is a wood panel technically, but it looks like brushed silver. I wish we had more flat silver wall panels that weren't like galvanized like this. But there are some steps and a little tiny platform leading up to the window. So this is where you order and then where your order comes out, I guess. There's also a little easel here with the menu of the food truck on it, obviously, because you need to know what you're ordering. We'll go into the food truck in a second, but this is where you would take and sit with your food if you wanted like shade. Obviously you can go sit at the picnic tables, or you can go sit at the coffee area if you want to, but most people would come and sit here. But there are a few tables here and some bar stools in the back at a bar if you want to sit there, that obviously stare into these people's yards, so that's a little uncomfortable, but everybody's cool with each other in this town, so it's not weird. And at the back of the food truck, there is the little door for the employees to get in and out, as well as a little stair that they set up here. Again, a trash can and recycling bin, and a stack of some extra chairs that are not currently at the like seating area. And then on the inside of the food truck, I'm gonna be so honest, I could not for the life of me figure out what to do with these 2 awkward spaces on this side with the rounded walls. So I just closed them off with a flat wall and raised these with platforms and put a little galvanized metal flooring on it and called it a day. So we're going to pretend like these are like storage bays or something like that. And that's up to your imagination. I'm not doing anything with them. But on the inside here, just a very traditional, food truck situation. So we have our little safety mats. When you come in the back of the food truck, there are obviously aprons here, a whole kitchen area. I threw some meat onto this grill top here, or like griddle top, I guess it would be. I did add, I think this is a debug like grill brush, some plates to start assembling food dishes with. Again, one of these shelves. I also wish we had more to-go bag or like to-go container options, even if they were debug. I haven't been able to find any. Maybe I'm just missing the packs that they would come with. The only thing I could find was this Zoomer's delivery bag, which works. I wish it came in like more colors, maybe. But so there's a few like to-go bags here, people waiting for their to-go orders. Obviously, cash register, have to have that. I love these lights for this food truck. I feel like if I ever make more food trucks in the future, I'll probably reuse those lights. And then just a little sink. I threw a little like debug sponge in there. I thought it was cute. And then a little mirror just so the workers can fix their, hair or whatever. Food trucks get real sweaty. They get real hot. So they want to make sure that they look presentable and they don't have food on them. And then I think these might be debug mixing bowls as well. I put some of these sauces up here. More of those spice containers. I love these containers. They just fit on almost every kitchen shelf you could possibly imagine. And they have so many different colors. Put 2 of these up here, sandwiching the little knife rack. And then obviously all of that minus the plates. All of this is already like built into this item, which is great. I love when items have like the built-in clutter already because it saves you the work. Sometimes I don't like it. And then this corner over here is the actual like garden portion of the community garden. It takes up quite literally 1/4 of the lot, but it is pretty useful. So on this side here, these are much smaller sections. And again, I figured this was all like volunteer run and managed. I'm pretty sure all of these were debug produce items. So we have, what do we even have? We have medium lettuce, and I also think large lettuce, oversized lettuce. So there are 2 things of lettuce because I ran out of things to put here. And then in this front one, we have pumpkins. I did use this strange overgrowth item on this section and these 3 back here because every time I was having a hard time getting the produce to look realistic, like it was actually growing here, because again, I'm not actually going to do the work of gardening in gameplay. So I just put debug items, but they looked very much just placed there. So I used this and I scaled it to fit whatever I was putting in to make it look like it was actually growing here, because this was the closest thing I could find to like vines or roots. So I just put that in there and I think it helped quite a lot. I will say over here, these are actual planter boxes. These are not. I built these with half walls and like a dirt floor tile. So if you want to actually use this like to play, you might want to replace these with planter boxes, or I don't know. Because again, I'm not building for functionality. I love the way these looked. These won't actually work as planters, I don't think. So unless you might be able to put the like dirt mounds down them, but I don't know. Good luck. But I have pumpkins here, and then we've got a bunch of potatoes, some watermelons, and I think blueberries. Is that what these are? Yeah. And then a bunch of blueberries, which I just used the 9 key to raise. I did enlarge the blueberries because they were quite small when you actually go to place them from the debug menu, but I made them bigger, and then I used the 9 key to raise them to actually look like they're hanging from the vines here. And I feel like that works relatively well. Obviously, realistically, they would not stand up like this, but since I can't adjust this, it worked out well. And then these string lights go across all of the sections, so it 1 looks more aesthetic, and 2, people can garden at night if they want to. But I feel like from the other corners of the yard and compared to everything else without these lights, it just looked very flat, and I wanted to kind of level it up to everything else, so I think the lights really helped that. Funnily enough, the main reason I wanted to do a community garden in this series is because obviously this is a werewolf series, and in my little imaginary brain, I figured they would have a community garden where they would grow wolfsbane for all of the community to have access to at any time, because if you know the lore of werewolves, wolfsbane is frequently used to either stop them from transforming altogether, or in some cases mitigate the like difficulties and the pain that comes with transforming. It can be used to completely stop it, it can be used to slow it, it can be used to control it, whatever, depends on the context and the lore and whatever. But I figured here in this community of Moonwood Mill, they're all werewolves, they all know that, they all like being werewolves, but they use wolfsbane in like wolfbane tea, and like they use it to cook or whatever, to not stop the transformation but to just minimize the pain, make things more manageable, have a better like control over it, whatever. That was the idea I had. I like the idea of I like the idea of wolfbane being used as like a tool and not against them kind of thing. So I figured they would have a community garden where they would grow it. However, wolfsbane does exist in The Sims 4. It, I think, originally started in the vampire pack, and then they added it to the werewolves pack, and then I think at some point they made it a base game item, but I cannot find it in build mode to save my life. I don't think it exists in build mode in the same way that other plants do, even as a debug item. I found one single, like, spruce of wolfsbane as a debug item, but that doesn't cut it. But I wanted like actual bushes. So these are not the actual wolfbane plants that you will find in the world of Moonwood Mill or anywhere else in the game. I think this is a lavender plant and something else. That's definitely lavender, and that is a debug item of some sort, and it is certainly not wolfsbane. But I just figured, you know, it's close enough. We're gonna say that it's wolfbane. It's wolfbane because I said it is, and maybe they have like 2 strains of it. I don't know. Maybe they like got really good at growing it and they have like special kinds, so whatever. But we have 12 3 6 9 12 we have 12 plots of this one, 12 of this one, and they probably, again, they cook with it, they put it in their tea, they do all sorts of stuff. So they constantly have a supply of it growing for everyone in the community to use. Obviously, the food truck probably cooks dishes with it. The coffee shop probably makes drinks with it. So this is what inspired the entire community garden build in the first place, and is now like the least important part of it. And then I figured, you know, they might keep bees. I don't know. It seemed fun. But there are 6 bee boxes here. And then on this side and over on this side, there is pretty much an identical setup of this little gardening table here and a pallet of fertilizer. Those I just stacked in kind of whatever haphazard way made sense. So I just piled them up here. And 2 of these things back here. I wish I could find a metal one, but I could not. So we're going with the wood ones. But I just tucked them back here. It was a perfect place to park them when they're not in use. So that is the garden area. And then the sort of piece de resistance of this whole build that kind of changed the entire outcome of this build is what they call the greenhouse, even though it does not function as a greenhouse. Obviously, here's the reference picture again, and then here's what we came up with. But I'm kind of obsessed with it. This is probably one of my favorite things I've built recently. Here's a little 360 of the outside. There's a whole variety of random windows used to assemble this. And then we have this galvanized steel, what is this one? This is the one with the skylight pockets. Sheet metal roof with accidental skylight. But that is, I think, from the Werewolves pack. But yeah, it's a greenhouse because it has green walls, and it was originally supposed to be a greenhouse, and now it's not. But if we go on the inside, she's so cute. One more time. It's a little indoor lounge area. So we have just a bunch of little random chairs, the same table like 6 times, and then these 2 cute little couches, a coffee table with some board games, and more places to sit and hang out. I did throw some debug, like coffee mugs, I think like a plate or 2. And then in this little corner, there is a little spot for an acoustic music set. There is a guitar, a mic, just these like suitcases that are here as a sort of table for their drinks, a stool, and then a little bucket for tips. So I figured typically, you know, people could get their coffee, their drinks, whatever, come hang out here. They could study, they could work if they worked remotely, and then there'd be like a cute little, you know, local live music situation, or people might travel to come play here, daytime, nighttime, whatever. But I am obsessed with how this turned out. This is like one of those builds where I'm mad that it doesn't exist in real life. Like, I'm mad that I made this and I can't go there, like with my friends, because I would hang out somewhere like this every weekend if I could. Like, I would go and edit my videos on this couch right here if I could. So I'm a little bit mad that it doesn't exist in real life. It also, while I was decorating it, kept giving me the vibes of something that would exist in Pretty Little Liars. So my hyperfixation of that show in my... What? My hyperfixation of that show when it was on air is still influencing me today. So that's fun. So that is the community garden in its sort of like default state. So this is how I figure it would function most of the time for anybody to come and volunteer or to hang out, obviously get coffee, eat, work, or hang out in the little lounge area. So like most of the time, this is how the community garden would look. However, I did also think, because this is such a like centerpiece to Moonwood Mill, they would also do like events here. Obviously for the community, it's a community garden, but they would do little events here. My town does stuff like this a lot, where in the downtown area, they'll do like little outdoor concerts, like movies in the park, things like that. There's always things like that happening, especially in the summer. So I figured this would be the kind of place that they would do that as well. So I did add this to the gallery as is in its default state, but I also uploaded a second version with some alterations made to it to see what it would look like on like a Friday or a Saturday night when there's a little like concert in the community garden situation happening. So let me switch these over and then we'll look at that.